Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something really special. The Tamiya ORV chassis.
Oh, yeah. Iconic stuff.
Absolutely. You know, the Frog, the Subaru Brat, Blackfoot, Monster Beetle. These models are pure nostalgia for so many of us.
Definitely brings back memories, but there's a catch, right?
There is. Despite all that charm, this chassis is pretty well known for, well, gearbox issues. Clicking, braking.
Especially when you start throwing modern LiPo batteries and, hotter motors at it. The original design just wasn't expecting that kind of power.
Exactly. So that's what we're tackling today.
Yep, our mission is to look at smart, targeted upgrades for the ORV. We're really focusing on that rear drivetrain.
We'll cover the rubber boots, how best to secure them, and importantly, the path to a drivetrain that can actually handle some serious power.
Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, those little rubber boots. Tamiya part number 625002. They seem small, but they do a pretty critical job, don't they?
Oh, absolutely vital. They're basically seals. They keep dirt, grit, all that abrasive stuff out of the driveshaft joints.
And just as important, they keep the grease in. You need that lubrication.
Right. And a bit of community humor here. People joke the bright color helps you find the axle after it pops out.
Which kind of highlights a common problem with the stock setup, right?
It does, yeah. But securing them properly is key. Now, the gearbox side, that usually gets a nylon band. Pretty standard, works fine.
But the wheel side, that's different.
That's where it gets tricky. Generally, you don't want to clamp that side down tight. It's all because of something called driveshaft plunge.
Driveshaft plunge. Sounds technical, but it's really just about suspension movement. Yeah.
Exactly. As the suspension goes up and down, that distance between the gearbox output and the wheel axle actually changes slightly. It gets shorter and longer.
So the driveshaft needs to slide in and out a bit.
Precisely. And the boot needs to stretch and compress to allow for that movement. Clamp it tight on the wheel side and you restrict that.
Leading to?
Torn boots. Or the boot just gets pulled off the joint entirely when the suspension moves.
Right. So for you listening, what's the practical advice here?
Okay, if you're running stock power, just leave that wheel side boot alone. The friction fit is usually enough.
But if you're pushing things, more power, maybe running in really dusty or gritty conditions?
Then a loose zip tie on that wheel side can be a good idea. Think of it like a gentle wiper seal. It helps keep debris out, but doesn't clamp down so hard it restricts the plunge.
That's a really important distinction. Okay, so zip ties are the basic option. What else is out there if you want something maybe a bit more robust?
Well, standard nylon zip ties work, but go for the black UV stabilized ones if you can. They last longer.
Makes sense.
Then you've got heat shrink tubing. That can make a really nice, neat, sealed connection if you do it right. Bit more DIY.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Elegant.
Yeah. Stainless steel band clamps are another option. Very secure, very low profile, but you often need a special tool for them.
Right. Bit more investment there.
And then you get into things like safety wire for a really permanent fix, or even reusable ties like grip block ties if you want convenience for maintenance.
Okay, lots of options for securing those boots. But let's shift gears a bit. We've protected the joints. But what about the strength of the components inside those boots?
Ah, yes. Because upgrading one thing often just, reveals the next weakest point.
And with the ORV, especially when you add power, what's usually the first thing to cry uncle?
Oh, hands down, it's the stock gear differential. It's just not up to the task with modern power.
Made of that infamous pot metal wraps.
Exactly. It's relatively soft, kind of brittle, and it just gets chewed up. That's where the serious clicking, grinding, and eventually total failure comes from. It's not designed for brushless power or even strong brushed motors with LiPos.
So if you're serious about running more power reliably, that stock diff has to go. What's the go-to replacement?
The absolute must-have upgrade is the MIP Superball differential. That's part number 16210.
MIP. Okay. Known for quality stuff.
Definitely. This is a precision-made, rebuildable ball diff. It's designed from the ground up to handle serious power. It completely solves that stock diff weak point.
But there's a catch, isn't there? It's not just a drop-in replacement for the diff itself.
That's the critical part. The MIP diff uses pin-type drive cups. The stock ORV uses dog bones with slots. They are fundamentally incompatible.
Okay. So if you install the MIP diff,
You must also upgrade your drive shafts. You need to switch to universal joints, UJs, or CVDs, constant velocity drive shaft.
Like the Tamiya Frog Universal Shaft Set. That's part hashtag 53908.
Exactly like that one. Or similar aftermarket CVD options. Those have the pin connection that works with the MIP diff's drive cups. You cannot use the stock dog bones with the MIP differential. It just won't assemble.
Wow, okay, so it's a system. More power means you need the MIP diff, and the MIP diff requires you to upgrade to UJ or CVD drive shafts. They go hand in hand.
Precisely. It's an integrated upgrade path. You tackle the weak diff, but that necessitates stronger axles that are compatible.
And just briefly, for those really going all out, is there like a next level beyond that?
Well, yeah, for the ultimate Restamod, people look at things like the Ampro Engineering rear double wishbone suspension conversion. That totally changes the rear end geometry for much better handling and performance. And it's designed to work with any of these drive shaft types.
Okay, that's definitely top tier stuff. So let's try and summarize this for everyone listening. If you're building or restoring an ORV, you've got a few paths depending on your goals.
Right. Let's call it tiers.
Tier 1, the reliable classic runner. You're keeping it mostly stock.
Yep. Stick with stock parts, but be diligent with maintenance. Clean and grease those joints. Use a good quality zip tie, maybe UV resistant, on the gearbox side of the boot.
And leave the wheel side boot unsecured.
Correct. Let it plunge.
Okay. Tier 2, the hop-up performance build. You want more speed, more power.
Now you're talking MIP Super Bowl diff, that hashtag 16210 part. And you must pair it with the Tamiya UJ set, hashtag 53908, or a similar CVD kit.
And maybe use a slightly more secure boot method on the gearbox side, like heat shrink or one of those band clamps.
Good idea, yeah. Keep that side sealed tight. Wheel side, still maybe just a loose zip tie or leave it be, depending on conditions.
Got it. And finally, Tier 3, the Restamod Ultimate ORV.
This is where you go all in. Everything from Tier 2, so the MIP diff, the UJs or CVDs, robust boot securing.
Plus those bigger chassis upgrades, like that Ampro double wishbone conversion you mentioned.
Exactly, and maybe even look into sourcing or making custom silicone boots for the absolute best sealing and durability. It's about optimizing everything.
Fantastic. That really lays out the options clearly.
Yeah, and a final thought here. The vintage RC scene, especially with models like these, isn't always just about buying off-the-shelf parts. Sometimes the best solutions come from a bit of creative thinking.
Like thinking like an engineer.
Exactly. Look at the problem, understand the mechanics like that drive shaft plunge, and see what solutions you can adapt or create. So the question for you is, what unique fixes or adaptations might you come up with for your own ORV project?